Hello, and welcome to our third Phyla Project submission. The first species is green algae. It is from the phylum Chlorophyta, and some characteristics of this phylum is that they are green due to the presence of chlorophyll, and their cell wall is two layers, one made of cellulose and one made of pectose, and they have an organized nucleus. So the classification for green algae is in Kingdom Plantae, phylum Chlorophyta, class Conjugatophyceae, order Zygomatales, family Zygomateceae, genus Spirogyra. The mode of nutrition for green algae is it's a photoautotroph, which means it converts sunlight into energy, and it uses that energy to to convert chemicals into food, so it provides nutrients for them through sugars. For their reproduction and life cycle, green algae reproduces asexually by fragmentation. As long as conditions are favorable with good moisture, good temperature, good nutrients, and good sunlight, the algae will continue to grow until it breaks. That causes a new strand of algae that will then start the cycle over and grow until it breaks into a new strand, and that will continue to happen on and on and on. So for the source, range, and dispersion, for the source, it was from lab class, from the pond water lab that we did. And for the range, green algae is found mostly in freshwater locations, and there are more than 400 species in the world. For dispersion, green algae displays a clump dispersion since they grow together in their habitats. For habitat, they like to inhabit vegetation areas in and near shallow ponds and lakes. And for their ecological role, they form the energy base for aquatic ecosystems. So what that means is many aquatic animals eat algae, and that's where they get most of their energy from because it's their main food source. Also, algae aids in regulating the oxygen and carbon dioxide levels in the aquatic environments that it's in, since it does perform photosynthesis.
My species is the emerald green arborvitae, or the Tuja occidentalis, also known as the spengarode. It's an evergreen tree with its leaves arranged in a flattened fan shape and scaly leaves. It only grows up to the height of 30 to 60 feet, and the trunk up to 100 feet tall with a 5-foot trunk diameter. The bark is reddish-brownish with longitudinal stripes. The seed cones are 0.4 to 0.6 inches long and 0.16 to 20 inches broad with 6 to 8 overlapping scales. The cones are slender and yellowish green at first, and then it ripens to brown. The plant grows in a pyramidal shape. For the classification, the kingdom is a Plantae, the phylum is a Pinophyta, the class is a Pinocida, the order is a Pinales, and the family is a Cupressaceae. The genus is a Coniferous. For the mode of nutrition, like many other plants, the tuja gets its energy from the sun, and it's preferred to have full sun, meaning at least 6 hours of direct, unfiltered sunlight every day. For the reproduction, the tuja it develops both male pollen cones and female pollen cones on the branches of the same tree. The cones are cross-pollinated by the wind, and the blooming period occurs from late spring to early summer. Each mature female cone has about 8 seeds and overlapping scales that spread apart to release its seeds from late summer to the fall. It has about 4 fertile scales and 2 seeds in each. The seeds are distributed by wind, and it produces by layering when the branches extend to moist soil. The branches can also develop roots when the tree falls to the ground. For the life cycle, it keeps its leaves all year round, and they have a slow growing pace. The seeds grow on average 3 inches annually, and the cone production begins at 6 years of age, but more continues to produce around 30 years, and the peak production does not occur until 75 years. Germination rates are high, but seed mortality is also very high due to drought. The fallen trees are able to stay alive and also grow roots to develop and grow new upright branches. The tuja trees may live over 800 years, and one tree has been researched to be over 1,000 years old. For the source, we saw this plant in lows. The dispersion, the tundra is dispersed by wind. The range, it is a native in eastern Canada and most of north, central, and northeastern United States, in states like Illinois, Connecticut, Maine, Massachusetts, Rhode Island, and so much more. The habitat, the tundra preference is full sun and light shade. It thrives in moist conditions in a calcium-rich soil that has a neutral pH. It likes swammy areas and also rocky hillsides. For the ecological role, it serves as food and also a cover for birds and red squirrels. It is commonly used in medicines, and it's made into oils that are used for skin diseases, cancer, and also insect repellent. It is also used in food and beverages as a flavoring agent, and is used in a fragrance in cosmetics and soaps. It is threatened by the overpopulation of deer in some states that feed on these trees, and the tree is often damaged or killed by fire, ice storms, heavy snow, strong winds, drought, or other problems. So my organism was the mosses, and the scientific name is the Bryophyta. So mosses are non-flowering plants which produce spores and have stems and leaves, but they don't have roots. So the kingdom is the Plantae, the phylum is the Bryophyta, the class is the Embryophyte, the order is the Polytrichales, the family is the Polytrichaceae, and the genus is the Polytrimid. So the mode of nutrition, so mosses are photoautotrophs, so they can make their own energy using light and carbon dioxide through the process of photosynthesis. So how it acquires energy and carbon source, they absorb water and nutrients mainly through the leaves, and harvest carbon dioxide and sunlight to create food by photosynthesis. So the reproduction and life cycle, mosses are both sexually and asexually. So mosses sexually reproduce by transmitted sperm in the presence of water from the male plant to the female. The zygote forms a stalk, which is called the seta, which holds the pores in a small pod at the top. Describing the life cycle of most mosses begin in the release of the spores from a capsule, which opens when a small like structure called the operculum degenerates. So it is found. So I found this organism at Lowe's, and geographically, mosses are found in the northern regions of the United States, from Maine to Washington, throughout Canada. Mosses population seems to be in Eastern Asia, and that's where the oldest modern moss has been found to come from there. The pattern of a moss is typically they form like a dense green clumps of mats in shady and damp locations. The habitat, mosses are distributed throughout the world, except in salt water, and are commonly found in like shady locations. The ecological role, so mosses are an environmental way to conserve water and control erosion. They help filter rainwater, and they also help clean up hazard chemicals. So describing the impacts the organism has on our ecosystem, and if it was removed, it would be kind of bad for the environment, because mosses serve as a valuable role in also air pollution, rain acid, water pollution, and wastewater treatment. Thank you.
The next species are diatoms. They are in phylum Heteroconophyta, which includes both phototrophs and heterotrophs. They normally have flagella, and they include pigments that cause them to have a golden pigment. The classification of diatoms is in kingdom Chromalviolata, phylum Heteroconophyta, class Bacillariophyceae, order Centrales, and it also could be order Pinales depending on the type of diatom it is. And for the family, this organism is special because it can be classified in many different families based on the order and suborder that it's put in, because there are a lot of like classifications that you can have for diatoms, and there's still research being done to this day to solidify their taxonomic classification. And for the genus is genus Melocera. The mode of nutrition: diatoms are photoautotrophs, which means they convert sunlight into energy, and they use that energy to provide nutrients for themselves through sugars. For reproduction and life cycle, diatoms reproduce asexually. They split into two daughter cells to create two new diatoms through meiosis. And some diatoms reproduce through gametic meiosis, where one diatom releases an egg and the other diatom releases up to 4 sperm that then go to fertilize the eggs and create new diatoms through meiosis. And many diatoms go through a vegetative state where they continue to get smaller and smaller and smaller until they're ready to complete reproduction, whether that's asexual or sexual. For source, range, and dispersion. Source, we got it from the lab class. We did the pond water lab. For range, diatoms are found in almost all aquatic locations, both saltwater and freshwater, and they can even be found in moist soil if it's moist enough. And for dispersion, the dispersion of diatoms can either be random or clumped. Sometimes they are alone, where they attach to different objects or float free in the water, and other times they travel in colonies, so they're like in packs together. For the habitat, they mostly thrive in freshwater habitats, including both standing and running water. They also like plankton-like environments, and they can even occupy microscopic flora. And for the ecological role, diatoms are a very important food source for aquatic environments. At the bottom of the food chain, they serve as key nutrients for small fish and invertebrates. Since they do photosynthesis, they also regulate the oxygen and carbon dioxide in the waters that they live in. It's like a little baby. They look like those things off of what's that movie? Chicken Little.